September 11th, 2021, and this video is called Pranksville, United Airlines Flight 93. Now, coming up on the 20-year anniversary of 9/11, I always thought that there was a few things that were fishy about the whole thing, but I just want to delve into the flight that went down in Pennsylvania, in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. I call it Pranksville because I really think that something happened there that wasn't really part of what they told us that happened over there. So what I'm going to show you is a couple videos, and one is actually from the FBI YouTube page, and it's called The Investigation of United Flight 93. And then a couple other movies or videos that I found, and it's kind of surprising what I'm going to show you. So the whole basis behind this is what happened to those people on the flight. And looking at some of the video, I'm thinking it's possible that the flight was probably blown up out of the sky. From the official story is that plane went into the ground, and my whole story is, where are the people if it actually, the plane went into the ground? And if you look at some of the descriptions of what the people, the first responders, and the people investigating it themselves, nothing makes sense of what visually you could see what happened and the official story of what happened. Now, if I'm thinking, if people were on that plane that went into the ground, wouldn't you think that, where are the body parts? Or if they are in the ground, I think in this country, no matter how deep those bodies would have been, we would have dug them out no matter what. We wouldn't have stopped until we got one last piece of them. So that's why I'm a little skeptical of what happened to the bodies, and it makes more sense that that plane was shot down and it was not anywhere near where they say they were in the crash site. So when you're watching these videos, just keep in mind about what the people are actually saying, and in the back of your head always think, where are the bodies? Where did the bodies go that were on that flight? So check out what I kind of came across, and like, nobody questions like what happened. I guess a lot of people have, but none of anything on that day makes sense. And it's a shame that the mainstream narrative is probably not actually what actually happened. So check out this stuff that I came across and let me know what you think, what happened.
I think we finally arrived out of the scene between 2 and 3 o'clock that afternoon. The plane crashed shortly after 10 a.m. So we had an RA out near that site, and they responded initially.
We would have been the first because it's 20 minutes from the office as we drove that day. I expected to see fuselage, remnants of a plane, which I didn't see anything but pretty much smoke and some fires.
I saw absolutely no signs that an airplane was present, no matter what direction I looked.
You didn't know that a plane had crashed there. You had a crater, and the initial crater was probably 15 feet deep, but we didn't have big plane parts laying everywhere.
It looked like the plane had hit but there's not a lot of evidence of the airplane, and I've described it a lot of times as basically a knife through hot butter.
What I saw when I got up there was kind of I've described it as a crater. There was a mound of dirt above it, and when you stood above the mound, you could actually see the wings, outline of the wings and the main fuselage, the center of the plane, how it went down in the ground.
There was a misty smoke in the air from the jet fuel that had set the woods on fire.
It was very barren. It had been a strip mine, so it was a very barren area with some trees behind, and that's what burned.
As far as the odor, it wasn't as bad as you might think. There were obviously certain spots that you would hit. You had the smell of death.
My immediate reaction was, there are no survivors here. This is not a rescue effort. This is a crime scene, a recovery effort.
But it looked like an organized form of chaos, if that makes any sense, because you had so many people coming in, but all anybody wanted to do was to help.
Once the perimeter was established, and the next day, as command posts were established, the evidence response team from Pittsburgh, Cleveland, I think Chicago, teams were called in.
We had teams come in, and I thought to myself, how are you going to have this many ERT teams from so many offices in the country come into this area and work as one unit? It's not a natural sort of thing, because you work with the same people day in and day out, and you know what to expect from them. But now you've got Knoxville, Cincinnati, Detroit, Louisville, Cleveland, working with Pittsburgh people, West Virginia people.
Anyone east of Pittsburgh went to either the Pentagon or the World Trade Center. All the teams that we brought in were west of Pittsburgh and within driving distance, because all the flights had been grounded by that point. I think we had about 100 ERT personnel come in, and that doesn't include all the support personnel that they brought in to support the mission. We had our safety officers there to check the air quality for us, and initially they determined that we should be wearing just regular Tyvek boots, and if we were working in the crater, then we needed respiratory protection. You really can't go much beyond a 12-hour shift. People are on their hands and knees crawling through this site looking for debris, personal effects, and human remains. It's very physically and emotionally taxing.
And there were some real significant finds that they were getting very early on. I was shocked at the number of items that they were able to recover.
We found great evidence of Flight 93. We found the passports of the hijackers. We found the notes that they had written for themselves. We found a knife that we believe was used by one of the hijackers. The other crash site were the 44 people who were killed on that plane. Once we did start processing, there was a big push to find the black boxes so that we could find out maybe what had happened on board the plane. We were pretty sure that the flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder were going to be in the crater. So they were concerned that there was a possibility that they could have landed in the pond. We brought in divers from the Navy because at the time only the Navy had the equipment to hear the cockpit voice recorders and flight data recorders ping when they were underwater. We actually found the first recorder in the crater 5 minutes before they arrived on the scene. Can't remember if it was that night or the next night. We ended up finding the other recorder in the crater as well.
I was there when we discovered the black box. There was a lot of pressure from all of the sites, not just New York and the Pentagon, to locate the data recorder and the black box. It was a big deal when we did find it, and I believe it was slightly over 25 feet into the crater.
If you look at the response at Shanksville, you look at the investigation that was done, you look at the recordings and the phone calls that were made, you can kind of piece together what the passengers on that plane did.
No part of our investigation showed that anything happened other than what has been, told to the public over the last 15 years. The passengers on Flight 93, in a heroic action, charged the cockpit of that airplane and caused those hijackers to abort their mission and take that plane into the ground.
The debris here is spread over a 3 to 4 mile radius, which has now been completely sealed off and is being treated, according to the FBI, as a crime scene. Governor Tom Ridge made some remarks earlier at a press conference. He had flown over the site. He said the emergency response here was immediate. He also said, and I don't know whether or not you all are able to see pictures of this, but this is one of those cases where the pictures really do tell the story, that sort of the most horrifying aspect of this particular crash scene is how little debris is visible. There is a large crater in the ground, and I'm hoping that you all are seeing it as I'm talking about it, but that's really all you see is a large crater in the ground and just tiny, tiny bits of debris. There's been at least one report that the investigators out there, and there are hundreds of them, as I said tonight, have found nothing larger than a phone book.
I want to get quickly to Chris Kanicki. He's a photographer with the Pittsburgh affiliate of Fox affiliate. He was back there just a couple of minutes ago, and Chris, I've seen the pictures. It looks like there's nothing there except for a hole in the ground.
Basically, that's right. The only thing you could see from where we were was a big gouge in the earth and some broken trees. We could see some people walking around in the area, but from where we could see, there wasn't much left.
Any large pieces of debris at all?
No, there was nothing that you could distinguish that a plane had crashed there.
Smoke, fire?
Nothing. It was absolutely quiet. It was actually very quiet. Nothing going on down there, no smoke, no fire, just a couple of people walking around. They look like part of the NTSB crew walking around looking at the pieces.
How big would you say that hole was?
From my estimates, I would guess it was probably about 20 to 15 feet long and probably about 10 feet long, or 10 feet wide.
What could you see on the ground, if anything, other than dirt and ash? And
you couldn't see anything. You could just see dirt, ash, and people walking around, broken trees.
I gathered all the information I could and quickly learned that there were a lot of things about the crash of Flight 93 that didn't really add up right away. The fact that debris fell on this lake a couple miles away at the same time that the plane was crashing, the fact that some lighter pieces of debris that definitely came from the plane, like mail that was in the cargo section, blew as far as 8 or 9 miles away. And if you look at the pictures from that day, it was not an incredibly windy day. I mean, that's the official explanation, but it's certainly an explanation that's worth questioning. I also learned quickly that a number of people who were in Shanksville that day saw a second aircraft, which, I mean that alone should raise huge questions about what was going on. It was a very contradictory picture out there.
It means different things to different people. I noticed this morning several ladies crying again, and they'll cry the whole time they're here. And then you'll see people that just come in and take a quick look and it satisfies them. Sure, there's stories like that floating around. That doesn't bother us, it doesn't bother the family people. We still say they done it, and we will always say that, regardless of, yeah, I've heard the plane was shot down. No, it wasn't. The word that we got, that the fighter planes that were sent to shoot it down were at least 2 minutes away from Shanksville when it crashed.
A hijacked plane crashed in Pennsylvania this morning, not far from the West Virginia border. This is one of the 4 planes hijacked during this morning's attack. It crashed in Somerset County, Pennsylvania, about 80 miles southeast of Pittsburgh. 13 News reporter Kane Faribaugh has more tonight from the crash scene.
We're here in Somerset County, Pennsylvania, and this is where United Airlines Flight 93 crashed earlier today, just after 9 a.m. Very soon we're going to travel down the road. We're going to be taken to the airplane crash site. What we know at the crash site so far is that not much notable exists there except for a large crater in the ground where the plane apparently made a 45-degree angle nosedive and crashed directly into the ground. What we know at the crash site so far is that not much notable exists there. Not much notable exists there. Not much notable exists there.
Cleveland. Hi, Cleveland, New York, Boston. I got a little situation with American 11, American 11. He is a 767 departed Boston going to LAX. We don't know where the aircraft is going. He supposedly going to LAX, was going westbound. We lost his frequency, then we lost his transponder, and now the aircraft is just west of Albany, heading due south.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Do we have the data block on it? Who's got the?
Yeah, it's a primary target presently, and it's just heading southwestbound.
Okay. Understand.
I'll go to right now.
I'll advise the area.
The last altitude observed was flight level 290.
29.
Southbound. Heading southwestbound. He's like towards Hancock, right around there. He's southwest of Albany by 15 miles.
You have no idea where he's going?
No idea, sir.
All right. You can tag him on the TSC. I have to pick him up.
Primary only? Primary only. Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
That's American 1060.